Get stacked.
Triple threat.
Expected value. Now take what you learn, go out there, and get stacked.
What up, Gripsters and random YouTubers? Evan here for Grips.com, and I got a real special, spectacular MTT review right here, ready for you. So, why is it so special? Well, first off, it's on a site that's American friendly. And before you hit the comments with your questions of, oh, well, I'm from America, where should I play? The best site for American people to play on currently is Bovada, and it's not even close. Why else is it special? Well, it was a series major, the Golden Spade Poker Open event, a $200K guaranteed tournament with a $162 buy-in, which paid $36,000 to the winner. Congrats to my man Ali, whatever you prefer, brother. This is one hell of a score. And just one more thing before I get into the review, a little bit about our boy Al. He's been playing poker professionally as his sole source of income since finding the Grips Poker Training channel. And after taking a well-deserved month off after his victory, on his first Sunday back, he got fourth in the same event for another $12,000, give or take $500. Al has taken our learning and training philosophy to heart of investing in himself. He's spent the money to join training sites and spent the time watching those videos and has seen great strides in his game since doing so. Now, when it comes to this tournament, the best part is that the night before the tournament, Al's computer broke and he was up all night trying to fix it. So he started the day mega tilted and dealt with disconnects throughout the day. This is why we may see some early spew, but Al's philosophy is go big or go home early. And in whatever tournament the chips fall into place, that's the stack where he's going to focus his attention and get stacked. So, this is a serious grinder, a talented player, and I think we're in for a whole lot of learning. Are you excited? I hope so. I sure as hell know I am. Let's get right into it. So we'll be starting off with some rags, which we will be folding, and in the interest of, saving time, we're not going to spend much time on the hands that were folded. We're just going to see them and move on to the next one. So here, nothing wrong with opening a suited connector early position, and on this dry board with backdoor straight draws and backdoor flush draws, definitely find a fire. And on this turn, we can definitely put some pressure on our opponents. If he's calling with, an under pair, he may not like this turn and just release right away. Even if he's calling with, a medium-sized overpair, if he doesn't have a heart, he's going to have a hard time calling come the river. If we fire the turn, I think we strongly need to consider following through on the river as well, as this opponent could be floating us with, Broadway cards like King Queen, King Jack, which do have a heart in them. He could also have an ace, and giving up is totally fine. So our opponent does have jacks, and that's a spot where maybe the third barrel would have got it done, and that's a good illustration of the fact that, just because you get the scare card, and you fire doesn't mean you're necessarily done. Sometimes to really get the most out of that scare card, you have to follow through on your story. Because if we had an ace when we make trips on the river, I think we're almost certainly betting again. I'm going to guess this ace-9 is a fold in early position, as is all this. I should be careful with skipping through the blind hands, as I do know that Al likes to defend his blinds, but whoa, that was pretty quick. We're already down to four-handed play. And this will happen sometimes when you play on the more hood sites out there. But it's just because of late registration we got moved to another table. And I'm sure it'll fill up really quickly. So here with the 8-7, I think we can go either way. This is a board that, is fairly connected, fairly textured, and could hit the defender's range. But, we have a fine hand to semi-bluff with. We can turn trips. We can turn straights. We can be ahead of draws, which are calling us, and at this point, it's time to go for value town, all the streets, all the barrels. I do like the idea of going big. I think maybe a tiny bit smaller would be ideal here, like 400, but hey, you know your opponent, although it's pretty hard to know what PLR 5332876RO is going to do, but a nice hand, and we get paid by the 9. What do you think of that guy's call down for all the streets with the mid pair? Do you think at some point he should have thought wiser and gotten out of there? What about preflop with the defend? Yeah. Bovada, think about it. You don't get people defending that kind of shit on PokerStars, at least not in these levels. And there's definitely a lot of value there. Okay, so ace-queen, this is a spot where we can definitely go either way. Al takes the lower variance approach of just calling, and I think that's definitely fine. We're going to be ahead of the limp callers range. We're going to be ahead of the raisers range. We're like 300 big blinds deep, well, 250. There's no need to build a massive pot out of position early on with a hand that can just take the flop well. Here, all plays are fine. Maybe not folding, but calling because we have the best hand against a c-better's range is fine. And check raising would be an option we could consider as well. At this point, we'll just try to take this thing to showdown. And sure enough, we have the winner. Nice hand. Is Al open buttons? No. Okay, cool. Let's get through this. And something I will talk about as this video progresses is that the blind structure on Bovada is quite different than what you'll see on most of the other sites. You do start extremely deep, but they kind of skip a lot of levels and go quite faster in the later stages. So you want to know how to play your turbo type of tournaments if you're really going to grind it out on this site. Top pair, 4 away. We can definitely go for some value. And I think pre-flop we can consider opening to a larger amount than minimum as well. We're so deep that if we want to get value from hands and if we want to really be able to apply pressure to our opponents, it would make sense to start building the pots early on so that all our bets are a more significant portion of our opponent's stacks and therefore, you know, they'll respect them a little bit more. Here we go for the second barrel and take it down. Looks good to me. Will we be doing anything with this Jack 9? Maybe. See, we're getting 4 to 1. We need 20% equity against 3 other players. I'm not sure how we're doing, but you know what? Just for fun, let's check it out with PokerStove. And for anyone who's wondering about PokerStove, because I've seen the questions in the comments, don't think I don't read them, you can get PokerStove for free at grips.com on the Poker Softwares page, where you can download a working copy. So all I'm doing is seeing how Jack 9 does here against 3 random hands, and we see it has plenty of equity. Now let's go with a more reasonable range. We'll say the isolator has 10%. We'll see the limp caller has 30%, and we'll say that the big blind has 20% of hands, and let's see how our equity is there. Okay, so it's going to end up falling around right break even, you know, where we need. Now we're at a positional disadvantage. There's a lot of other things going against us, which would, you know, lean us more towards not wanting to defend the Jack 9. But I just wanted to show you guys the basis for how you can figure out, you know, based on the pot odds that you are getting offered, which we see here on the Hold'em Manager replayer, how you can start deciding, you know, what kind of hands you want to defend. Like if we changed our hand from Jack 9 to say Ace Jack, I think our equity is going to shoot up a lot higher, and we're going to see we have well over the 20% threshold that we need even against some strong ranges. So that's a little fun thing there, so you guys can get PokerStove and start looking at that sort of thing and seeing spots like this where if it had limped around, definitely we want to flick in the half a chip there and see the flop because our pot odds are just so good. All right, getting aggressive right out of the gate. Al, in his notes, said, remember where I would spew? Well, here it is. He decides to go for the cold 4-bet, which early on is just really unnecessary. And against an under-the-gun opener who's getting 3-bet by a mid-position player, I just don't think we should expect him to be all that light. So the fact that we have a blocker doesn't really do much for us. Either way, we are repping an extremely strong range, and therefore once we get to this flop, we definitely want to fire a c-bet. And at this point, I was going to say we should shut down unless we turn a good card for us, which there actually are quite a few. 9, 8, 4, 3, and diamond. And of course, ace. So I think I like a check here to take our hand to showdown. We could definitely be beat by, you know, an ace-king or ace-queen that floated because we made a cheap bet on the flop. But given the price that we are getting 3-1 here. We need to be right a quarter of the time. He can have over pairs that he's betting maybe for value, or he could have something that he's turning into a bluff. People peel pretty wide pre-flop on Bovada, so you will see some random shit like this guy could just have 8-9. So I think given the price, we got a call, and we get beat by ace-king. But, you know, that's just the punishment we get for making a unnecessary pre-flop play. And this is the illustration of the concept of compounding errors and why you can't really justify making bad pre-flop plays, because it just comes back to like by being like, oh, well, it's just a little bit. It's not going to cost me very much. Nah, it adds up, and it ends up costing you a couple thousand of chips off your 6K stack. So we got the aces, and we got the best flop you can possibly get. Let's just go for all the value. We bet, and our opponent folds. In the notes, it says that he butchered another hand, but I think this is a spot where we want to go for 3 streets. This is a spot where our opponent can float, and if he has a really, really weak hand, what's he going to do? Fire 3 barrels when we check to him all 3 streets? No, he's probably going to do a one and done. So I think we're much better off just going with the standard bet line. That's what we would be doing if we didn't have a hand, so that's what we should do when we have a hand as well, because our opponent, you know, we can expect him to call us down and pay us off because he knows we could have some bluffs. So no sweat there, man. I see you're giving yourself a hard time on that hand, but I think it's fine. All right, little Jack 9 of the Spadial variety, and we see a flop with 3 undercards. We got 2 overs. We got a backdoor flush draw. I think we can make a backdoor straight with an 8 and a 6 or an 8 and a 10. And this board's low cards. We can definitely be betting. Remember, our opponents are more likely to connect when the board comes high cards than when it comes low cards. And when we face this massive check raise, I think that folding is totally fine. All right, ace queen. This is about the bottom of the opening range for early position. Definitely a good thing to be aware of. You definitely want to think twice when you got ace jack or king queen. And on this flop, 5-way. Although we have the backdoor nut flush draw, I think this is a board where we're pretty likely to get played back at by someone. And unless we're going to bet super small, I think checking with the intention of folding is fine. Al goes for the check call because the opponent bets so little. And we see based on our pot odds, we only need 18% equity. If both our overcards are good, we have 24% right there, plus the backdoor flush draw. For people who are like, dude, where are you getting this? Just look in Poker Stove, you'll see. And that's an interesting turn for us, because our hand is now improved to the nut flush draw. We could consider leading to take control of the action and kind of price ourselves in, you know, betting like 300 or 400. But we do risk getting raised off the hand. That's not a terrible thing though, because if we check and the in-position player bets a large amount, we're priced out of the draw anyway. So I think it's worth considering. It gets checked through, we look for the nice card on the river, and don't get it. I think I would have just checked the river, but it's fine for Al to go for a stab here. You can expect that his opponents have like an 8 a lot, like 8-9, 7-9, Jack 10, something that's not crazy strong that may fold to this bet, but it looks like player 3-7, 6-9, 7-3-9, YM woke up with the flush, and we fold and don't show them what we have. So it's another Grips Classic MTT review where Hero drops down to way less than his starting chips, but will somehow pull out the victory when it all matters in the end. Whoa, and I didn't think we would be doing anything with Queen 4. But shows what I know. Spoiler, we limp in. That's okay. Look at the price we're getting. Well, we only need 25%, which we probably have. Now when we get raised, suddenly we need 38%. And I think we should just fold. But Al was tilted. His process for the limp shove was expecting the villain would attack a limp. But let's be real, this is just bad. Clearly our man was on tilt. He didn't like that he had less than his starting stack. But sometimes you make 3 queens and you beat the 2 tens. Don't focus on that play too much. Let's just pretend like the first 40 hands never happened and take our analysis from there. because Al, you have now upset the more newbie of the YouTube contingent. Prepare to get flamed. It's going to happen. They're going to be talking about nothing but that queen forehand for the next 2 weeks. Doesn't matter what you do in the rest of the video, rest of the series, how sick you are. That is the only thing they're going to focus on because, man, that was really fucking dumb. Queens. Surprised there's no c-bet. Again, the players on Bovada are quite stationary. They like to call down. And we want to be driving the action here with these queens. If we bet and get raised, well, we can deal with that then. But I think it's important to define our opponent's hands here and get the pain. Now, once we've checked twice, we're obviously not. We're just letting it go. Definitely missed out there with the queens. You know, we may have ended up having to fold otherwise, but I think we should definitely have bet the flop. On the turn, he didn't think he was getting bluffed too often. That's fair. But I don't really see the purpose behind checking the flop. Aces, or, you know, like sevens, something that has fewer bad cards that can come, where you have like the gut shot protected and stuff. I can understand checking a little bit more, but with queens, you know, there's all the straightening cards plus the ace plus the king. There are lots of bad cards that can come, and if you can just bet and take that down, or bet and start defining your opponent's range, I think that's the way to go. So we got the top pays, top keys, easy bets. We were going to go for all the streets, and it looks like Al is going to do that anyway. I like the small bet sizing on the turn. I think given that our opponent's only going to call if he has an ace, and since he called a under the gun raise from early position, he's going to be calling us with, you know, like ace 10, ace queen. I think we can go for a big bet on the river. However, if the reason we're taking this sizing here is to kind of limit our losses when he does have a jack / get a fair payoff whenever he does have an ace, I think it's fair. So if this is like a merge between a value bet and a blocking bet, I like it. If we're betting purely for value, I would like a slightly bigger sizing. Oh no, we got min raised. He's totally gonna have the jack. And now looking at your notes, I see that this was the exact reason you did that bet, so that's cool. Did you pay him off? Did you take the 6.5 to 1? No. Discipline. Discipline. That guy's never bluffing. He always has a jack. He probably has ace jack. And so we keep on rocking. Hoping on the button with, I want to know where 10-9 off falls into the percentile ranking of hands. Anyone who has the grips cheat sheets, if you could look that up and post in the comments, that'd be cool. I'm going to guess with it not being suited, it's going to fall around like, I'll take between 38 and 42%, but let's see what we come up with. Good board for the pre-flop raiser, c-bet, take it down. Note the sizing, 103 into 360. Not a high success rate required for a bet so small. Here Al's continuing to be a little loosey-goosey. And it's interesting because, you know, we talk about building up an image a lot. And on this site where people don't have HUD stats, for some people it doesn't matter building the image. For others who are really paying attention, they're going to be on it. I think the 9-3 suited is a little loose. And I think this King 10 is probably loose too. Good spot to c-bet, but Al disconnected due to the laptop and was timed out of the hand. Twos, open it up and take it down with the c-bet. Cool, the board's still pretty dry, jack 8-4. Pretty discombobulated, pretty disconnected, pretty not working together. We got some folds, some folds, some folds. We gonna fold them threes? No, we're gonna open them threes. Take it down. I think Al will be one of the looser players we review in terms of opening. Yeah, that's cool. We're also going to be seeing some pretty wide defense because of pot odds, skill advantage, and etc. And on this flop, it's actually quite a nice one to lead. It's not that likely to have connected with the pre-flop raiser. Can definitely have connected with us, and we have outs if we get called. It's a great spot to just lead out and start driving the action. Action with a queen 8, no TY. What about an ace 5? Mahurier. Queen 4, oh no. Well, actually, given what we saw last time, maybe we should see if the queen... Okay, he learned from his mistake. Most people who get lucky would keep doing the same mistake over and over. Be like, oh, clearly I did the right thing. So here we have, again, kind of a loose open, but it is what it is. In weak fields, you can stretch the boundaries a little bit more. And I don't know if Al was intending to call the 3-bet otherwise, if it had been heads up. But once there's a cold call behind, it's pretty tempting to call closing the action, getting 4-1. It's a hand that can be easily dominated, but you're really just calling, hoping to flop the jackpot, the old slot machine. And when no one shows any interest, Al takes a stab. Now, I think given that this opponent cold called and then check called, we may see like a pair of 10s, a pair of jacks. And if we go for a really strong bet on the river, we could probably take this pot down. If he had a flush himself, I think he would have shown a little more interest in the pot. He would have been looking to build that pot. He could have also had a hand like ace-queen with the ace of spades that, you know, would justifiably call the turn. King-queen's possible, but pretty unlikely for calling a 3-bet unless it's suited. But again, I think that would have been a hand that fast played. So I think this is a spot where if we bet big enough, we should be able to take this pot down because we can have the 7 and it's pretty hard for him to have a hand with a 7 or a hand like a set. Because first off, those aren't that likely to call pre-flop, but even if they did, we should have expected him to do some sort of betting, some sort of pot building. So he checks, we go for the 1,000. I think bigger is better in this spot because he is pretty likely to have the overpair, and these guys are pretty stationy and get stubborn. So getting almost 4-1, he may call. But our opponent folds and we take it down. So that's a spot where really just well played. Nice identification of the fact that the opponents weren't too interested in the pot and saying, okay, like this could be my pot if I'm willing to go after it. But it's the key to this hand was the follow through on the river because we're going to get called on the turn by a fairly large part of player, who is he? 8-1-1, 8-4, 8-8 VJ's range, because his range wasn't that wide to begin with when he called pre-flop. So most of that is going to call the turn, but not much of it is actually going to call the river. So because the large percentage of the range that we're going to fold out happens on the river bet, it's important to make sure we follow through with that river bet and don't just do a one and done. So a nice pot there, nice take, and we're right back in the action. And getting used to raising a lot of hands on Bovada early on isn't a bad idea because late when the antes get in there and the blinds get up, everyone gets really shallow. So there's tons of value to being active. So if you're already used to being active, it's easier to maintain it later. And this is a board that's somewhat connected. I don't know how I feel about a c-bet, but the notes say this guy is playing pretty weak and passive against him. So he just goes for the follow through. Al's decided this is an opponent that he's going to be targeting and going after, and that's what, you know, tournaments are all about. You're playing on a 9-handed table, you can't get too crazy, but if you can identify who the weak players are by flatting and by 3-betting and widening up those ranges, you can really get involved with them and put a lot of pressure on them and actually start to get a lot of value and a lot of things going for you. You know, you don't just have to play tight, but it's very important you know who you're playing with because that's where the real value comes. So here we're getting a very good price, 3.2 to 1. We've seen this guy's 3-bet before, so I think the peel is fine. I think with King 10 offsuit we should probably be folding, but Al, what do you think? I know you've spent a lot of time looking at the numbers related to odds and stuff, so cool. And I think the check raise all in is totally fine. We start the post-flop action with 3 pot-sized bets. If we check call, we have a pot-sized bet, and we're out of position, so it makes sense to fast play. If he's got it, cool, we don't really care. We have plenty of cards we can hit that will make us the best hand. So we take that. And Not getting crazy with a bottom pair. No need three-way with no backdoor flush draw or anything. We'll get some folds. Oh, did I miss a hand we played? The king three of diamonds. And that guy just went on. Cool. And the king four of clubs. Take it down with a c-bet. Here's a spot where we're getting incredibly good odds. Definitely going to want to see a flop, and on that board, not going to want to put in too much in the way of action, but our man Al is really, really looking to apply maximum pressure. Looking for this hand in the notes. Okay. Yeah. And okay. He thinks that he probably has too many bluffs, but because of how he saw he was playing that day, he's not surprised that he went for it and he got it down. And, you know, if he bets like 800, he's probably getting looked up a lot here, but this is the power of bet sizing. When you go for the overbet, when you apply the maximum pressure, it takes a really strong hand to be able to call you down. And I think that's going to be a good place to stop. We're at about half an hour, and I think that's the length that I want to keep these videos. So that's going to wrap it up for part one of the series. I hope you picked up a thing or two that you can add to your game to help you get stacking. Don't forget to share your thoughts, questions, and insights with the team in the comments section. They are appreciated and are what spur the discussion to get the mental juices flowing and get us all developing our games so much faster than we ever were before this amazing community came together. So, I had a lot of fun. I'm very happy to be back, and this series is just going to rock out all week, so keep coming back to the channel every day. You know that good stuff is coming your way. This has been Evan for Grips.com. It's been a real pleasure. Now you know what to do. Take what you learned, go out there, and get stacking.
Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking.
Stack it up, cash it in, damn, I win again. Many friends come to play, cause I'm on the internet. Better yet, I flop the turn and take a chance upon the river. I'll bluff you with the 7-2 offsuit, whatever's clever. Call you all in while your chip stacks falling. Better believe the dealer, cause the game just started. Don't know the rules, you bet it all and then you risk it. If you wanna learn it, you should go online and hit up Gripsit.
Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Ever since a young cat, want a pocket stack with cash in the fast stack, crammed in the clam click. Gotta get the action, gotta get it stacking. Dollars on the noggin, want a lot of transactions. Started as a little retarded, now with the knowledge, playing cards, flopping, bombarded, cause it was harder than I thought. Then I got on Grips.com, asking and got what I needed to be to me get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Yeah, we get it stacking. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. The flops I be smashing, the pots I be blasting. Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. When the main event, man, that could never happen. The Grips.com, tell you how to get it stacking. Now you're picking up traction, getting action. Grips.com.